Ignition sequence starts. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
Hey everybody, this is the Digital Asset Investor, and I am already so sick of carpooling. I feel like I am Mr. Mom. I've been carting kids around all freaking day, and I'm about, as soon as this video is done, I had to find a window of time for this video just so that I could go pick the kids up from somewhere. And so it's just at times it can be frustrating because at times I just feel like I am like a yo-yo going all over the place, but never fear because I can deal with it. And my kids have already hit their 2 buckets of balls twice this week. We've only got 1 more to go there. So I am getting it done. The Digital Asset Investor always gets it done. So today I'm going to get it done with this video by first showing you this. I found it's a pretty good video with Mike Novogratz. And remember, Mike Novogratz was one of the first investors in Ripple. He is also one of the rare folks who owns Ripple equity, but he can't quite get his mind around XRP. It's the weirdest, most bizarre thing. And it's been like that. Even Brad Garlinghouse even got into it with him one time, or tried to get into it with him over it. But this guy's a real mystery to me. He is a smart guy, but I think I've always felt like he has put so much money into Bitcoin that he just can't, he will not say Ripple or XRP unless he's asked about it. Then you can tell he's just ready to bail as fast as he can. But this is a pretty good video here.
Fund legend Mike Novogratz, and it's good to have you here. Welcome.
Thanks, Kelly.
So explain to me the line of thought. It seems that SEC Chair Clayton isn't as friendly towards cryptocurrencies as another regulator might be.
Listen, he spent most of his term, I think, focused on what we call regulation best interest, which comes into effect at the end of this month. Pretty apropos time for him to step down. It seemed like he kind of didn't want to deal with the crypto issues specifically and kind of constantly punted on it. Listen, I think regulation best interest is a good piece of legislation, and it'll be a great legacy for him. But us crypto guys have been wanting somebody a little bit more engaged, a little bit more active, a little bit more forward-looking. And so hopefully, there are plenty of good people out there. Chris Giancarlo, who ran the CFTC, Heath Tarver, who runs it now, Hester Pierce, who's an SEC commissioner. And so I think all 3 of those would be great picks.
Notice that there's no XRP on this list. They skipped XRP and put litecoin.
Exactly. Mr. President, if you're listening, Mike Novogratz would like the following SEC chair. But what about those who are much more skeptical of cryptocurrencies and their viability, and whether that SEC chair should be so open to them? You
guys just had a pretty quaint conversation about using coins, and I was sitting there thinking, for God's sakes, people, this is 2020. 93% of Chinese financial transactions happen electronically, digitally. We are moving into a digital era, and we're still talking about quarters versus nickels. And so today, China actually suggested with Japan, Korea, and Hong Kong to do a regional cryptocurrency that becomes their trade currency. And so we need to get our act on the ball. Fast, right? Or U.S. is going to fall way behind.
Yeah.
And so it's almost impossible for me to think that in some period of time we don't have stable coins or crypto versions of the dollar, digital versions of the dollar that really become what we transact
but
instead of carrying around pockets full of change.
Here's what always confuses me about that line of argument. We have digital dollars. I use them every day with Venmo and all these other things. Why do I need a cryptocurrency?
We certainly do. So we have Venmo. You're limited to how much you can move around at any one point. We have Apple Pay. We have plenty. And listen, that's growing. There's going to be a big battle over payments. Is it going to be a centralized system like Venmo, or will it be a more decentralized system where privacy is easier to orchestrate into the system, like a digital or a crypto dollar? Listen, Facebook is coming fast with Libra. I think it'll be launched by the end of this year. They've got 2.3 million customers, and that will be a dollar-based stablecoin.
One more question, Mike, and it's on the value of Bitcoin. So, if I told you, hey, there's going to be a national pandemic, people can't get access to cash, literally, among other things, you think it'd be the perfect environment for Bitcoin to spike, but it didn't. I mean, it's kind of treaded water. It sold off a little when the market was weak. Most people see this as a disappointment. I wonder if Bitcoin shouldn't be stable in value, because that was maybe part of the attraction for use more generally.
Well, listen,
what does it all say to you?
I don't think Bitcoin is going to be used as our payment currency, certainly in the United States, right?
You're darn right it's not, because it's not useful for anything.
Why are people buying Bitcoin now? They're buying it the same reason they're buying gold. Gold's on the highs. Bitcoin has come from, it sold off to 5,000. It's back to almost 10,000. Because people worry that the Fed and the Treasury are printing and buying too many dollars, right? We've got this unholy alliance between huge fiscal stimulus by the Treasury and the Fed financing the whole thing. And when you keep putting more and more dollars in the system, the value of the dollar could go down. And so the possibility of a big dollar devaluation it's higher. It's not a base case, but it's certainly higher. And so people are using Bitcoin as a hedge to that.
Yeah.
And we're seeing that. We're seeing that with adoption slowly but surely. And so it will surprise me if we don't take out 10,000 soon. And after that, you're going to see 14,000 and then 20,000.
So that was on June 22nd, just a couple of days ago. And one of the things that I keep hearing now is that this SEC chairman was not liked. Everybody was ready for the SEC chairman to go so that they could possibly get things like a Bitcoin ETF. But anyway, he was talking about the digital dollar project. At the end of this video, I'm going to show you a video from a podcast with the guy, the Christian Carlo, who works for the law firm that represents Ripple, who's running the digital dollar project. And of course, in the whole interview for a podcast, he does not mention Ripple. He mentions every other digital asset, or he mentions some of them and mentions other platforms, but he doesn't mention Ripple, the elephant in the room, of course, even though we know that he represents Ripple. All right. This is from New Creation Capital. This is an interesting video that they put out. Watch this.
Bank branches and ATMs will start disappearing across the country as the pandemic shifts Australians further towards a cashless economy. The use of cash has more than halved as many retailers switch to cards and phone payments, transforming the way we use money.
It's the unintended cost of avoiding close contact. The big banks say they've achieved in 10 weeks what it planned to take 5 years.
Things have changed so fast. Who would have believed there'd be merchants in Sydney that wouldn't accept cash?
A recent Reserve Bank of Australia consumer survey found a decade ago cash was used in 62% of all payments. By 2016 it dropped to 37%, falling to 27% last year. Since the pandemic hit, it's estimated to have plunged to less than 10% in many sectors.
It may have accelerated during this period, but the bottom line is that banking is considered by Australians as an essential service.
The big four banks have closed 170 branches during the lockdown. Some may not reopen. Australia's 28,000 ATM machines could drop to as few as 15,000, and cheques will be consigned to history. We're on track to become like Sweden, the world's leading cashless economy, where just 13% of transactions are done with cash. And the government has been forced to legislate to guarantee the access to cash for those who need to or prefer using it. Particularly people in remote and rural areas and older Australians.
We're talking about hundreds of thousands of people that still want to use cash, that still want to go into a bank.
In April, banks increased the tap-and-go limit on cards to $200. Soon we might only see notes and coins when we tap to get into a museum. Brian.
Does my son need to draw you a picture of a closed ATM? Because I can get him to. He may not like to draw you an ATM. That's a pretty boring thing for him to draw, but he could do it. Okay, Matthew Lana sent me this. Nigeria and China sign a deal to bypass SWIFT for currency swap deal, DLT, the likely new settlement system. And he's got these little things documented here. I'm not going to read through them. I need to get through outside Hyperledger Fabric, Microsoft, R3's Quarter, Ripple, Bitcoin, Ethereum, and others mentioned and already discussed this white paper. There are others which the Central Bank of Nigeria could partner with to build and implement a blockchain application and therefore effect frictionless, cryptographically secure cross-border payment settlement that takes seconds for process corruption removal purposes. Transparency guaranteed, traceability, immutability, accountability, and among others with respect to USD 2.5 billion worth of Naira renminbi currency swap deal, details of currency swap deal. I'm not going to go into all that. I think you kind of get the gist of it. All right. Mark Phillips had tweeted this out. Digital asset investor, thanks for featuring my question to Brad Garlinghouse at DC FinTech Week. In my last video, I didn't realize it was him asking the question, but this section of the video in Washington, DC, apparently that was Mark Phillips asking that question that I showed. Mark Phillips is also famous. If you've never seen this, you ought to go check it out. He wrote this Medium blog entry, XRP was designed for $10,000. If you want to go read something interesting, go check that out. It's Mark Phillips, and you can give him a, I don't know, you can follow him right there. The evidence is in its design. He wrote this. This kind of went viral, and that was a big splash. Jonathan D sent me this from Ripple, a tweet today. Ripple keeps retweeting previous articles, I guess when they want to stress the importance of something. In the past 6 months, 80% of RippleNet customers opted for cloud deployment. Now, Banco Rendimento is the first to fully leverage this technology in the cloud. Read more. I think we already went over that article before, so I'm not going into that. Michelle Vandenberg sent me this from GateHub. As you may have heard, PayID is now available to GateHub customers. We gathered all information on PayID and how it works in our blog article. Check it out and start using PayID, a simple user ID for open payments. So I guess you can go get your equivalent of a money movement email address, and you can get one if you have a GateHub account, and you can receive money, all sorts of digital assets with your PayID. That's the way I understand it. Okay. I think this also came from Michelle Vandenberg. This is interesting. This is from the XRP rich list. It's showing a spike, people that are they're either adding to their positions or they're moving money, I guess, that are some of these larger wallets where the people that own large amounts of XRP are adding to their XRP. Good sign. Okay. Now I wanted to show you this. This is, what you're looking at. This is a blog, Unchained podcast. Unchained podcast. This is Laura Shin. By the way, Laura Shin is extremely anti-Ripple. I mean, you can see it all over Twitter. She's written articles where she's trying to stick it to Ripple or XRP. Countless. She's on record big time for hating Ripple and XRP and what that she thinks it represents. Well, I find this interesting because this is her podcast. She gets Christian Carlo, who works for a law firm that represents Ripple. It almost makes you think that the world is a stage. Well, first, before I go and show you a couple of clips by him, I wanted to show you who one of her advertisers is right in the middle of her program.
The Stellar Network connects people to global currencies and assets. Stellar lets you make near-instant payments in any currency with anyone, anywhere. It's an open blockchain network that acts as payment rails for applications and institutions around the world, and designed so that existing financial systems can work together on a single platform. Transactions powered by Stellar are low-cost, transparent, and fast, saving both businesses and end users the time and money associated with traditional payment networks. With Stellar, your business can issue digital dollars or exchange existing fiat currencies without the need for complicated smart contracts or new programming languages. Its robust documentation, toolkits, and multi-language support let you quickly integrate Stellar into your existing products and services. Learn more about Stellar and start building today at unchained.stellar.org.
Now, that is the second time that I have seen Stellar advertise during a time when Chris Giancarlo is speaking about the digital dollar. That is a red flag for me. Okay, Now I want to go and take you to the 3130 mark, and here we go.
Discuss in terms of the global space race, but just one last question about what you're proposing here, which is that obviously we know the history of blockchain technology and digital assets is littered with hacks, thefts, phishing, SIM swaps. Just it's so easy to lose this form of money. So or for these systems to be hacked. And with what you're proposing, where it's essentially kind of, I mean, tell me if I'm incorrect, but it sounds like a private blockchain where there's a limited set of nodes and the actors are somewhat either known or at least, kind of maybe predictable. So the security of something like that seems like it would be easier to compromise than the security of something like Bitcoin or Ethereum, where, there's just thousands of nodes all over the world. So how would you make something like this secure?
Well, look, if the standard for a financial system is it can't be hacked, then we might as well shut down the existing account-based system now because it's hacked all the time, right? That can't be the standard. Otherwise, we'll never move forward.
Right?
We have to recognize, and the breakthrough of this technology is its consensus structure. Its ability on a consensus basis, distributed basis, to get beyond the single point of failure verification process that we have in place now.
All right. And then I want to show you this little segment right here. Remember, he'll say anything except Ripple or XRP.
Management that the private sector can do, and having been in the government, that it's very hard for the public sector to do. Something as big as this needs to be a traditionally American public-private partnership. And so I'm hoping that those pilot programs call for the best and the brightest from the private sector. Some companies, I don't want to seem like I'm endorsing anybody, but there's so much good work being done right now. I've met with many of the companies in the space, in the blockchain space, are building things. I would like to see, let's try, Ethereum in one area. Let's try Corda in another. Let's try digital asset in a third. Let's work with Paxos in another. Let's have a beautiful explosion of innovation. And ultimately, even if we're, if we go back to the analogy of a race, which I don't like to use, even if we're starting late, with that explosion of talent, with that explosion of creativity.
It sounds like he just described a Cambrian explosion, similar to when Chris Larson, back when he was on stage, I can't remember the video, I will dig it up for you though, don't worry. Chris Larson said that we will have a Cambrian explosion. Wonder if this guy's ever been in the room talking to Chris Larson, because words mean things, and he's talking about an explosion. He just didn't say the word Cambrian.
I think we could create a dollar that would be the killer app in terms of sovereign digital currency.
Okay, so you don't want to describe any kind of particular pilot that you already have in mind?
Well, I think that military service compensation salary is a good one. I think veterans benefits may be another one. I think rural area distribution that have difficulty accessing banks. I think inner city areas with some populations. We're going to have to explore a lot of things. We're going to have to explore digital identity, which is a subject that's been very controversial in the United States. Do we have a central identity system? Do we use other means of authentication? So there's going to be a lot of work to get done there. This is not something that's going to be done overnight. It's not something that's going to be done in a few years. This is something that's a multi-year exercise. The more pilot programs we can get going, both in sequence, but also perhaps simultaneously, the faster we can learn.
That's all I wanted you to see, but I'll just say, I think you and I have been piloting XRP and the XRP ledger for a long time. I've been piloting it since 2013. Nobody's going to convince me that the digital dollar project is just something we're just now getting around to doing some piloting with this, folks. Nobody's going to convince me of that. That doesn't make any sense. Not when you're the world's reserve currency. I'm the digital asset investor. I'm not an investment advisor. This is for entertainment purposes only. Please subscribe and hit the like button and tell your friends and family that I have been piloting the XRP, my XRP. I've been piloting digital assets since 2013. And I am not buying that this digital dollar project is just something that we just got. Now we're going to have to figure out how we're going to possibly catch up to China. Whatever. Thank you for listening.